Hello, and welcome to the final Astral Nova concert of the season. Thank you so much for tuning in. My name is Brittany Lasch, and I'm a trombonist with Astral Artists. I'm coming to you from my house in Ohio, where I teach trombone at Bowling Green State University and play principal trombone at the Detroit Opera House. This program is very special to me for a number of reasons, notwithstanding the fact that COVID almost made it not happen. And not just COVID, but we had some weather challenges as well, but we'll talk about that later in the program. Thank you to all the team at Astral that made this concert possible. The other reason this program is really special to me is I have a passion for adding repertoire to the trombone world. We have a lot of repertoire so far. Many people are shocked to find that out, but we can always use more, and it's an absolute passion of mine to continue to expand the repertoire. The first piece on the program is by my good friend, pianist and composer Thomas Weaver, and the piece is for trombone and piano titled Midnight Embers. We'll hear from Tom in just a few minutes about his inspiration behind writing this piece for me. The second piece on the program is for trombone and pre-recorded electronics by the composer Inez McComas. I was asked by trombonist and educator Brad Edwards a few years ago to join a consortium commission. All I knew at the time was that the piece was going to be for trombone and electronics, and the topic was going to be homelessness. Now, this piece is incredibly powerful, and it tells the story of a woman named Cynthia English, who fortunately is no longer homeless. The piece is titled Unsheltered, and it will definitely make you think about how we view each other in the world. The final piece on the program is extra special to me. This piece is the very first piece I ever commissioned back in 2015-2016. This piece was also premiered by Tom and I on my final doctoral recital at Boston University, a place where Shawn, Tom, and I all intersected, but at different times. We've since become really good friends since graduating from Boston University. So as you can see, there's a lot of connection in the music world, and I truly hope you enjoy these new works for trombone. We have the composer
Yeah,
and the collaborator. So when I asked you to write a piece for me, what was it, 2018
two,
fall?
2018. Yeah.
And it was premiered in 19, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So
Yes,
what were
exactly.
your first thoughts when I asked you, like, how did you come up with Midnight Embers?
Well, my first thought, I guess, was, oh my gosh, what am I going to write for a trombone? Uh, and I guess I sat there for a while thinking about what I've heard you done with the instrument
Hmm.
and what I had heard you play, what we had played together, mostly on your recital, what I had page turned the first time I heard you play. Uh,
Oh yeah.
Live. And I really wanted to show what you could do on the trombone and show what it could do in relation to the piano. So I know you had done a lot with alto trombone and you were exploring the alto trombone a lot at that point. I didn't want to write for alto trombone, but I did, I guess, my job looking up the history of the trombone and thinking about how it was used in the past. And at the time, I was also getting ready to teach more counterpoint at Curtis. And it seemed like the intersection of the two was the tradition of the Lomar May masses in the Renaissance by a lot of different composers like Akagem Dufay and Palestrina, others, and just an exploration of that theme. So I was like, all right, the trombone's developing around that time period. This theme is prominent during that time period. Maybe I can take that theme, do something with it, and play around with the trombone in a unique and exciting way. So I took the Lomar May and broke it apart so it's almost inaudible and started writing this piece. So it was essentially my Canis Firmus that I broke apart into something for this.
But where did you come up with the title? There's a little narrative in there, isn't there?
Titles are the worst thing for me. I hate making titles. I tell all my students I hate making titles. It's the word. It's the last part of a piece that I write.
Okay.
So the piece was finished, and I sit there and I'm like, all right, Lomar May. I don't want to write Lomar May. I don't want to write Armed Man on the top of the piece because I think it's a little bit presumptuous and it's just a little bit too aggressive for what I'm going for. So I was sitting and thinking about the atmosphere that opens at the beginning of the piece, which is kind of dark and brooding, and very much into the acoustics of the piano and how the trombone and the piano interact acoustically in usually the same space, but sometimes different spaces. And with that, I came up with this idea that something you could hear at night. And that's where midnight came from. I actually imagined camping, even though I had never been camping at the time. And I was thinking, all right, it's night, it's around the campfire, what's going on? And it came to be Midnight Embers, that supposedly the moment before the armed man comes breaking into the camp, and the story can go however it goes from there.
Kind of like a loose mood setting narrative rather than a specific one.
Exactly. And I wanted to evoke the idea of night and darkness. And I wanted that contrasted with the inner fire and violence that's associated with um, potential readings of the armed man. I didn't want it to be like a sudden like burst of energy. And that's where the word embers, I think, came into play, because it's kind of the remnant of that rather than the act itself.
Huh. I knew roughly, but I should have asked you this years ago when I first played it. The only thing about your piece that is regrettable is that we have never actually played it together, because I was supposed to premiere it in January 30th, 2019, and out of the blue, the polar vortex hit Ohio, and it was -14. So Ohio never cancels anything for weather, but my recital got moved to May. We premiered it then; it went fabulous, and but unfortunately there was no stream. I remember that the stream got cut out, so it was like all these things went wrong, and then we were supposed to record it this February together, and a massive ice storm hit Pennsylvania, and you just could not come across.
Yes.
So I am still super eager to play this with you, because in my opinion this is one of the most duo pieces rather than trombone and piano accompaniment. This is a real interaction, and my part is made harder by how much I am not quite call and response, but it's like a hocket sometimes in the faster sections where we reply to each other.
My name is Inez McComas, and I am the composer of Unsheltered, the piece that you're about to listen to. Brittany reached out to me and asked if I would be willing to share a few words about the piece and perhaps maybe some difficulties that I had in writing it because it is a difficult subject, homelessness. First of all, Cynthia is the woman that will be sharing her story through her words. She has a dramatic story that is heart wrenching, it is tragic. It really says a lot about homelessness and how easily we can overlook it. Her words were so rich that I had a hard time having this not become a documentary because this is first and foremost a trombone work. So my challenge was to take her words and to shore them up enough so that you as the audience get the story, but then the trombone is really the one that gets to share the emotion and the energy and all the things that words can't say. And especially within the subject of homelessness, there's a lot that words just don't cover. And so, in the end, after much tears on my part as well, I think we came up with a piece that I hope will move you and encourage you and just to help you reflect on something that's a truth in our society that we can all help remedy. I hope you enjoy the work.
That is good to hear. You have such a beautiful timbre to your voice. I've heard your voice in my ears for the better part of a year now, and it's great to hear, see the person it comes from. Because I spent months preparing that piece, so it's just so nice to
Oh,
see
thank you.
you.
I'm so glad you enjoy the voice.
Yeah, definitely. So I have to ask, how did you get connected with Inez, and how did this piece come to fruition?
Yes. It's a very interesting story to me. Um, I did not know anything about the project, but a friend of mine, a mutual friend of Inez and mine, Scotty Jones, they went to church together.
Hmm.
And so apparently, Inez and all the sponsors and everybody was thinking about this project and, something, trying to figure out what they wanted to do. And Scotty Jones is a volunteer of mine at the coalition. He's a volunteer shelter monitor. And so we've been friends for many years. And I guess Inez was talking to him because she knows a bit about his story, being a 9/11 survivor and so forth. And so he introduced us. And she just said she was doing a project. I didn't know what it was. I didn't know anything about her, you know. Um, and so we met in a location and had the sound equipment and all that studio stuff. I hadn't done that in about 30 years. I was an aspiring singer a gazillion years ago. So a studio environment was, it was fun. But anyway, it was the basement of a church, but it still felt really cool. Um, and so we just talked for a couple of hours, on while it was being recorded. And I do a lot of, as often as possible, I do public speaking, rallies, different things, anything that has to do with putting a face on the homelessness crisis, particularly in New York. So telling my story in all its iterations is nothing new to me. But I'm going to tell you, this is so amazing. I didn't know what an awesome, musician and composer and so forth that she was. And I don't know, I think it's every little girl from my generation's dream to have someone immortalize them in music, you know?
Oh, wow, yeah.
So, yeah. So to have this song, written based on the feelings that were evoked in her from listening to my story is really, 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 really special, and I'm it's like it's the number one on my list of wonderful things that have happened to me in my life, besides my kids.
Is there anything else that you'd want to say to the audience watching this program?
Number one, I hope that anyone who watches it, listens to it, is moved not only by the music, um, but also by the understanding that that's not really my story. It is my story, but it is a story of millions, millions of Americans, multi-millions of people worldwide who do not have a place to call home. And we've been through a horrible time, the last year and change. More people are going to become homeless, and we need to fight to compel our governments to do what's right for people. No one should be without a home. No one.
I do it when I walk down the street because there are so many homeless people littered all over the place that if I stopped and acknowledged each and every one of them, my heart would break and I'd never recover. Sometimes you become invisible. Sometimes you become invisible, or you feel invisible. Being invisible, feeling useless, obsolete, is the worst thing. It damages the soul. My name is Cynthia English, and I'm currently 56 years old. I was born in Brooklyn, New York in 1963, and I got married when I was 19, had my first child when I was 21, then my second child when I was 28, and by the time I was about 32 or 33, I knew the marriage was over. I ended up having to have him removed from the home by the police. Then when I removed him from the home, I fell apart. All the years of abuse just caused me to implode. And then I had a nervous breakdown, and I lost everything. I ended up living in the streets. And I lived this way for 6 years. In a van, started living in cars, building shacks on vacant lots. And I lived this way for 6 years. I had been on and off psychiatric medication for the entire 6 years. My mental health was so precarious that I couldn't figure out how to save myself. I had a few occasions where I had to do what I had to do in order to eat. I ended up living in the streets. And I lived this way for 6 years. Living in the streets. For 6 years. For many of us who are long-term homeless, even if we have families and childhood friends and normal support systems, once you become homeless, there's a stigma attached. And while you're going through the course of homelessness and navigating all of the difficult things you have to navigate, many of us lose touch with those family members and friends because we're ashamed. But if each of us could adopt one person to be friends with, to give them that encouragement, to give them back some of their humanity and help them feel like they can move forward, that would do a lot for a lot of people. Being looked in the eye and treated like a human being, treated with respect, like a human being, like a human being, like a human being. person be friends with. Give them that encouragement. Give them their humanity and help them feel like they can move forward. Each of us adopt one person. Each of us adopt one person. Us one person. Us one person.
Let me just first ask, how are you doing now? Where are you? What's new?
In my life,
Yeah,
right.
in your life.
Yeah. Okay. I have been with the Coalition for the Homeless for, many years, as I don't know how much of the piece that you heard, but we discussed it in the full length. I started volunteering with them in 1997, something like that. And I finally, after so many years, even when I was in the street, obviously I wasn't in touch with them. It was a very hard time for me, and I'm the kind of person that if I'm not doing well, you're not going to see me. But anyway, 5 years ago, they offered me a permanent full-time job, and I had been on disability for several years because of a degenerative joint disease that I had. And so I've been a full-time shelter specialist with the Coalition for the Homeless for the last 5 years. Um, and that's what I do, you know. So I've been in a good place, you know, mentally, emotionally for a number of years, and that's just, something I'm really grateful for, because those years prior to and while I was particularly street homeless, were very, very dark times with a lot of mental health challenges, having to leave my kids and, everything that went along with that. So it was really difficult. And, a lot of people that were in the street with me are no longer with us, because it's a hard life. It's a hard life, you know. So I'm very, very fortunate, very blessed. Living with my oldest daughter and my grandson. Um, my youngest daughter moved out a few months ago. She's 19 and she's grown. So, you know,
Yeah.
so we're all good. We're doing well. We're doing well, and I'm very grateful.
Where are you right now? What are you up to?
What I'm up to right now. So I currently live probably about maybe 45, 50 minutes outside of Washington, D.C. I live in a town called Dumfries. It's just pretty much right outside there. And what I'm currently doing, I'm the director of bands at Forest Park High School in the Prince William County school system. It's I think it's like the second largest public school system for the state of Virginia. And what I do there, I have three concert bands. I teach AP music theory. What else? Percussion ensemble. I'm also the marching band director. I do the jazz band as well during the times when we can't do it. And that's just did I say marching band director already? Okay.
Wow.
And yes, and I also try to help out with Tri-Am too, which is the honor society. But that's kind of what I do during the day. I'm a band director, but I love to compose. I love to arrange, and I try to do as many recording projects myself. I also have a remote. I merged the word recording and remote together to make ricotta. It's ricotta cheese or something like that. But anyways, so I have lasagna on the brain apparently, or maybe my brain's made of lasagna. But anyways, so I also have I lead a remote recording big band called the Sages of Future Soul, and what we do is we try to do remote recording projects of arrangements of music that's been composed in the last 20 years, primarily jazz, funk, and soul, and some other things. But that's primarily what I've been focusing on in this past year. But so absolutely, and actually, a big inspiration for the third movement of my piece is Chick Corea, who we recently just lost, which is really sad, primarily because he was just such a genius of music and of playing and composition and I mean, just similar to what we were saying about Tom, he was such a great human being too. So hopefully wherever he is, he enjoys the rendition, and there's definitely some inspiration behind that. Definitely a little some Love Castle, some Armando's Rumba inspirations in the third movement of the piece. So I mean, it is called Reposado Sunset Rumba for that very reason. So hopefully Chick likes it.
I was just talking with Tom about his piece, but I actually commissioned yours quite a while ago. I don't even remember, when did I first come to you to write the piece?
So it was pretty much on the tails of when we recorded Make the Moment. So that was a trombone choir piece, which I considered the first piece I ever wrote. I wrote it for my dad, and I presented it to my trombone teacher, Don Lucas at Boston University. He said, "Hey, let's record it." And I was like, "Really? Can we?" And he was kind enough to get some of the best trombone players that we had at BU at the time. Obviously, Brittany, Mike Tyberski, Jackie Dreyer, Ryan Bisson, many others. And we recorded my piece. And Brittany, I think you really enjoyed playing the piece and you liked it. And I think we might have been in the lounge, the infamous BU lounge that day. You probably were practicing and doing all the amazing things you normally do. And I think I might have been in the other room, and you popped in. You said, "You know what? I think I'd really like, to commission a piece from you." And that was pretty much the impetus for that. And then that summer of 2015, I believe, I spent writing the piece. And I kind of put it on a shelf when I went to London in summer 2016. But then you premiered it in the spring of 2016.
Yeah, that sounds like something I do. Like, I have this idea. Shawn's right there. I better jump at it now before I wimp out.
Yeah, it was, yes, but it was, I mean, it was a really amazing opportunity for me, and I apologize if I'm getting the timeline screwed up, but I believe that at least that's how it all started. You were kind enough to ask me, and it was an amazing thing, and I really appreciate it too, and to have Tom play the piano part too, and edit it as well. Tom actually, like, the piano part used to look a lot different, a lot difficult, and Tom took it and made it actually like so musical and playable for a lot of other people other than just Tom himself. So thank you, Tom, for all the work you did on the piano part too.
Did we all overlap at BU at the same time, or were we?
I don't think we did. I think my first year, Tom, was right after you had left, I think.
What year?
My freshman year at BU was 2013, fall 2013.
And I graduated spring of 2013.
Yeah, so I just barely missed you, man. Yeah, but of course,
fun.
Yeah, I know, man. But of course, I had heard of you during my freshman year, and like all throughout BU, especially from Dr. Bill, because you played with Dr. Bill quite a bit, right? Yeah. And but obviously, because of your composition and your amazing playing too. But
I never leave the place.
Yeah, I mean, in a way, but it also depends on how much you get sucked in, like the BU CFA vortex,
Yeah. We're in Ohio, Virginia, and Pennsylvania, and we're all back together 5 years later.
Yeah. It's great, and I'm really looking forward to hopefully you two taking this program out on the road too when things opened up and everything's safe again.